Hello, chat and viewers, since this is technically YouTube. Today is October 13th, 2020, and today we're doing government and social media. This has been the longest year in the last week.
But
it's only going to get weirder.
It is the longest year, but amazingly, you are running out of year. And probably, I imagine that most of you, because of the general melees and, the upheaval, you haven't accomplished all of your tech goals. And it's time to do that.
Is it time to do that?
Insert advertisement.
Oh, yeah. Linode. Linode.
Right.
Yes, Linode has partnered with us for Devember. It's not December. Like, usually we do Devember and December. It's October. We know.
It's like Christmas in July.
What you sign up.
We started it early.
Yeah, well, you sign up with Linode, and your credits are only just now going to run out, toward the end of the holiday season, which is really the best scenario. Now, Linode has a huge number of tutorials they're putting together. I really like what they're doing with the marketing approach, because instead of spending their marketing dollars on, like, nonsense backwater YouTube channels for advertising, they're actually spending most of their money putting together these amazing tutorials. We put together one on WireGuard that was better than the one they had. And so you should check that out. Sign up for Linode. Use our affiliate link below. You get a couple of bucks. We get a couple of bucks. It's pretty awesome.
And you want to get started now because there is that big question mark hanging over November.
A massive question mark, as it turns out.
We're going to assume that you're going to survive into 2021, and you're going to need some job skills that are going to be in demand. Oh, they just got SSL working. So they got their S3 compatible, their S3 API compatible thing going now with Vanity SSL certificates. So if you want to be like bucket.yourdomain.tech, you can do that with SSL. That's great. On with the news.
So one case that's been going on for a long time, and a lot of United States dollars are riding on this one.
Man.
This is a big, big dollar sign.
Oh, I'm getting heart palpitations.
It is Google versus Oracle. Now, this is the old API case, and it warms my heart to know that a group of people who probably couldn't program a DVR if you put a gun to their head are deciding this issue.
Oh, Bloomberg. Their headline is Google gets mixed reception in Supreme Court clash with Oracle. So I read the transcript for most of this, and it is incredibly horrifying. Most of the Supreme Court justices apparently don't understand anything at all about technology.
Did you expect them to?
Literally, no. I mean, it's worse than I could have expected.
It didn't surprise me. I read those excerpts as well, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty...
What I expected.
Yeah. But the other thing about it is, the thing that bothers me is that because this is a copyright case, most of the worst tech, not the tech companies, but all the worst companies like the MPAA and the music people and the ISPs, everybody like that are hard lobbying to go with Oracle because they see this as a copyright win.
Yeah, the White House is behind Oracle as well, but Oracle, like, a lot of their arguments are disingenuous, and assuming that their arguments are not as disingenuous as they appear to be on their face, having the Java API published in such a way as they do that you couldn't adopt that and use it as part of something like Android or another product, that seems like a deliberate copyright trap. Like, you would wander into that thinking that you would be able to use that because you could. And then it's like, no, you're making money. You owe Oracle money. It's like,
also, did you see the analogies they made?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Like the safe cracking analogy was, yeah.
It's something else. It's quite a read if you want to take a hate nap later. Get your blood pressure up.
No, my new favorite word for 2020, like new slang word, is doom scrolling. Where you just scroll through, news sites and social media, and you just see how screwed we really are.
Isn't that the mainstream media all the time, though? I mean, they've stepped it up, of course.
Yeah, it's really stepped up.
I really hope one of the judges from the lower court, like Judge Alsup, the one that was actually tried to learn programming and do a little bit of programming, I really hope he's got at least one of the justices on speed dial and can call him and be like, no, you guys are getting the details wrong. Like, they need to even look at the history of computer science. They need to look at the Bell Lab systems and in Unix in the 60s. Like, they need to start there and just have a basic history lesson to really understand this.
They're never going to do that.
They're never going to do that. And that means it's going to go in Oracle's favor. It's going to be a dark day for all of this.
The Google attorney argued, it's like, if you rule for Oracle on this, you're going to change everything. Not just about the mobile phone environment, but everything. And they were just like, well.
Yeah, they didn't. It was like, oh, you're just saying that because you're an attorney. And it's like, no.
You kids and your flip phones. Last week we heard that Donald Trump had released the hounds on the big tech companies, and there's a lot of talk of antitrust. This week we hear from the Democrats. These guys had a lot of really scathing quotes about each company. They kind of went down the list and just blasted them. But when it comes to their actual plan of what to do about it, it's a little, I don't know, it's kind of vaporish.
Wasn't my read of it wasn't vaporish. My read of it was, how are you going to help us so that we leave you alone?
Yeah. Ephemeral, is that how you pronounce that word?
Yeah.
Because it's a big plan that's like, well, okay, when are we going to do that? And they're like,
House Democrats tackle big tech, quote-unquote, monopolies, according to Axios. I don't know. I haven't really seen anybody come up with a good plan for dealing with this kind of stuff. But no, scroll down to the Google one, because the Google one is really important when we talk about it in the context of...
Yeah, I guess we'll do it the other way around. So these are the quotes about the companies.
So Google, the search engine, has a monopoly in the general online blah, blah, blah. But Apple... The report says that Apple exerts monopoly power over software distribution to more than half of mobile devices in the U.S. It accuses the company of exploiting rivals by levying commissions and fees for copying apps and blah, blah, blah. Those two in particular I want to talk about because Apple, we get the whole Epic versus Epic thing. Like, that is a criticism. That is the same argument that Epic is making. That is part of their legal case. And then Google has the same sort of bad thing going for it. But Google has said they're going to make it easier for companies like Epic to offer their own app store, which sort of does away with that. But that's not really part of the complaint specifically against Google.
Well, I think they found the strongest negative item about each company and sort of showcased that. I mean, these are great sound bites. They sound strong. And then this is like what they're going to do about it. And it's kind of some common sense stuff, but there's no real concrete details of when or how this happens.
I want to call out specifically blocking online platforms from giving themselves preferential treatment or playing favorites with other content providers. In the case of Apple, the only fix there is to allow third-party app stores. In the case of Google's already done that in the EU with their search engine, but it was that unintended consequences thing we were talking about last week where they had an auction and they were like, all right, whoever gives us the most money can be the top search engine. And Google gave them the most money. But search engines like DuckDuckGo, because they don't make bathtubs of cash off of user data, they're not going to be able to bid bathtubs of cash to be the top search engine spot.
They'd be lucky to get just like a small half bath basin.
Yeah, I mean, like one of those uncomfortably small turn of the century sinks where you would only bathe once a week, and that's all you needed.
Once a year. We had the presidential and vice presidential debates so far. They were, I guess, the worst in history, we could probably say.
That's fair.
If debates are supposed to be an intellectual exercise, that was WWE.
But if they were just supposed to stir up the people, 10 out of 10, right? Well, we all know that Trump had a little bit of a health scare there. He seems to have powered through it. And because of that, the debate council made some decisions. They were like, you know what? This is a stupid risk. We have the technology, but he says no.
Reuters has the article that says, Trump says he will not do a virtual debate. I don't know why they needed to go on for 4 more paragraphs.
It was a pretty short article, to be fair. I mean, they only got 2 in a line.
This is cut down from what he said, but
he basically thinks that he won. And he won because that was a good format for him. So why would he change it up?
Okay.
We've done one virtual debate before for presidents, and I think it was JFK and Nixon back in 1960, maybe. So there is a precedent.
How did that go?
It was fine. I actually watched part of it on YouTube. It was far more civil than what I've seen so far. I didn't feel the need to drink during it. So that was an improvement.
I felt that I hate when people talk over each other. That debate was like The View.
Yeah.
And it's just unwatchable. And I think Trump came off really bad there. But at the same time, there are some like really, if you look at those moderators, some of their old tweets,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, like they're kind of stacking the deck. And maybe he felt like that was the only way was to bully through it. But I still think it would have been better if he would have just been like quiet for a while and then give him a hard one-liner, like he did with Hillary.
Yeah.
That was the masterstroke. That was back when he was politicking at his best. I'm not saying that's good for the country.
No, if you wanted to get the people riled up, he should have appeared on stage with a metal chair. I think that was one of the tweets that I saw.
One of the memes.
It's like, and the crowd goes wild because
Melania comes up and like distracts the moderator. He's just pow.
Well, the meme I saw it was Bernie Sanders. It's Bernie Sanders with a steel chair.
You think Bernie Sanders could get a steel chair over his head?
no,
No,
not a
but they
chance.
photoshopped it.
Well, one thing that has taken a back seat while Mr. Trump was having his convalescence was the war with China. But it seems like now that he's feeling better, he's ready to step it back up.
Bloomberg is reporting that the U.S. is exploring curbs on the Ant Group and Tencent payment systems. So this would be another form of sanctions, I guess, is the way to describe this. They're not saying they can't operate, just they can't receive payments.
They say that the fear is if this were to become ubiquitous in the U.S., then China would be getting a funnel of all payments happening in the U.S.
So you mean that foreign interests don't already own large parts of Visa and MasterCard?
Probably some people in China, right?
SoftBank doesn't own a lot of stuff already?
We're paywalled here. They did point out that the IPO is coming up for the Ant Group or whoever owns them, and it is like 30 billion, 37 billion, something like that. And they're very, very upset that this could interrupt that. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it seems like they should wait until after the dust settles on this for any kind of IPO activity.
Or after the election. We talked about last week, the IRS has changed some of their forms to point out that, hey, if you did anything with cryptocurrency, if you smelled a Bitcoin, you better fill it out on
You
your
better
tax
declare
forms,
that.
or they're coming for you. And that was to do with, what we consider lawful transactions. But when it comes to going after criminal activity with any sort of cryptocurrency, the Attorney General has released a paper.
Cointelegraph, I guess is how you say that, has... Cointelegraph, okay. U.S. Attorney General releases guidelines for enforcing crypto laws. This is, it's a little convoluted. It basically says if you're using Zcash or Monero that you're a criminal.
They really did say that. It's like, how do we identify criminal activity? Zcash and Monero. And one other. They mentioned one other. I can't remember
there was
what
a
it
couple others.
There was one I hadn't heard of before. But
Dash.
Yeah. So, not surprisingly, those are the ones that are the most anonymous. They don't like those. And
You don't have a right to privacy. Not really.
Obviously, the IRS were the ones that went after the stuff last week with the changes to their forms. They want to make sure they know every penny that you spend so they get their cut. And they are only doing that because they love this country and they want to see it operate at its best.
Listen, they need every tax dollar.
And that's going to be true after this year, but I don't think they're ever digging out of that hole. And sometimes they have a hard time finding people, especially if you're abroad. That if you leave the country, don't think that means you can stop paying taxes. By the way, if you don't know how that works, look into it. It's terrifying.
We'll have a story on that with Mr. McAfee himself in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And so one of the things that they would like to be able to do is to track you after you leave the country. How would they do that? Well, maybe by ignoring the law themselves.
Oh, I don't know. The IRS is being investigated for using location data without a warrant. So this is a Vice article on Motherboard. The IRS literally just bought it. It was like, hey, you got location data for this person? Yeah, that's a thing you can buy. So not technically illegal what they're doing, but Senator Ron Wyden and some other people, Elizabeth Warren, were like, hey, this is not within your operational mandate. And the IRS sort of pointed out, it's like, hey, we're investigating possible criminals for not paying their taxes.
So Ventel is a company that tries to get location data and tie it to an individual and then sell you that information. It's not technically the government doing it. It's kind of like the license plate thing.
Yeah.
They're kind of sidestepping it, but is that okay? Obviously, some of our lawmakers, and it's always the same names. We got like 5 people batting for us, and they're always the same people going after these companies. So I don't like their chances here.
Yeah, I don't like that. This is just sort of the normal MO. It's like, no, we're not doing that. This other company's doing it, and we give them money.
No one ever beats the IRS except Tom Cruise.
It wasn't really Tom Cruise so much as the Church of Scientology behind him.
He represents them, Krista. He is the face of them.
Yeah, that is really, like, that's the amount of power that it took. I mean, that's like the emperor versus,
They fought dirty. And as you mentioned before, John McAfee. John McAfee's Twitter is very entertaining. You ever check that out?
Yeah, I follow him.
He posts some stuff. There's like all these crazy posts from his history. There was one about whales. Have you ever seen that one? Google John McAfee and whales. Yeah, there's the one about the rumor about the sex worker he hired to perform a very
I think I might have unfollowed for that one.
very specific act, including a hammock, Krista, in a way that you've never thought about using one.
Krista, don't Google that.
Yeah, I watched a documentary about him a couple years ago, and like the documentary was pretty tame. Like it was trying to gloss over some of it. And I was like, that sounds depraved. Like
There was
a little
also
weird.
there was also a murder.
Yeah.
He was very closely involved with. So very entertaining man, but maybe he went too far this time.
Reuters reports that the U.S. has indicted the antivirus software creator John McAfee for tax evasion. The indictment went out of its way to clarify it has nothing to do with the McAfee company, but mostly it's to do with him hawking cryptocurrencies on Twitter and being paid for speaking engagements and other things like that.
Yeah, he sold the company a long time ago, and since then he's been living his best life.
It definitely seems like an adventure. I mean,
Yeah, really. For a while there, he was running for president from sea,
yeah,
so they couldn't track his location.
yeah.
Never a dull moment.
He was arrested in Spain a while ago, and so now he's being extradited.
And when it comes to facial recognition software, a lot of cities are saying that they're not going to do it. Other cities, Detroit, are doubling down and saying, yes, not only does this not work, we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. And some cities may have just been lying completely for 30 years.
After years of claiming it does not use facial recognition software, the LAPD admits that it has been used 30,000 times since 2009. So finally, just the house of lies just collapsed, and the Techdirt author here has some sour grapes in the tone that they use. They're like, if a citizen was lying about this, they would be arrested for obstruction of justice. Here, it's a simple mistake to just lie about it repeatedly.
And they're actually having to go back through and backlog all the Freedom of Information requests and being like, oh, we're real sorry. We said we didn't have that.
Yeah, but it turns out they do.
Why don't people trust cops, I wonder?
You're probably wondering, what's the punishment going to be? No,
Nothing.
It's not going to be one. Stop that. It's like me with my cats. What am I going to do? They don't care about the water bottle anymore.
Of course we're using facial recognition technology. The technology is available. Why wouldn't we?
We are going back to the moon, and we're sending women this time. And you need to be really careful about that because, I don't want to be like get into the whole gender argument here. But I think as a country, it would be worse on us in terms of our mood, our mentality, if we had another challenger and it was all women.
Oh,
I think that would be rougher on us. Krista, am I being, too overly male there?
I don't think so, though. I think it's sad either way.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think when Challenger happened, there was that one school teacher, and that's what everybody focused on. That was like the real sad story. So you got to do some testing, right? But there's some questions.
Safety panel has, quote unquote, great concern about NASA's plans to test the moon mission software. the Ars Technica article author did a pretty good job explaining that. You remember that Boeing trip where Boeing just sort of tested each little piece of it individually, and then not only did it not make the rendezvous with the space station, the aircraft almost broke up a number of times. Well, it turns out that that same process is being used to test the software and individual systems for the moon mission. And so somebody's saying, wait a minute, have we learned nothing? Because the Boeing stuff really didn't go according to plan. We need to do end-to-end testing on this whole thing as a unit, not doing it piecewise, because the piecewise testing didn't uncover everything.
And then NASA, they released a response to that and said, we're totally doing end-to-end testing. And they went on to explain how they weren't doing end-to-end testing.
It makes sense if you're a software developer. It doesn't make sense if you're a general population person. But yeah, don't... Let's hope there's no human beings on board this thing the first time they send it up.
I think they're going to do... I think the second and third is human beings.
Okay.
But still... That's billions of dollars that we're just lobbing into the air and hoping for the best.
that one developer on the inside is like, I told that idiot product manager, I told him, and the whole thing exploded.
There was have you ever seen the documentary about the Challenger, where the company, like, they were on a conference call with the company and they were like, we have to put this up today, and the company was like, I wouldn't. And they're like, no, we have to. We've delayed it 4 times. We have to do it. Will you sign a document saying we can today? And they're like, we don't want to do that.
We want to replace those O-rings. We don't know if they'll hold up.
So, yeah, you don't want to see that again. Cuties. Cuties is a movie that has garnered a lot of attention, most of it negative.
It makes me think that we've all passed on. We're currently in purgatory and being evaluated for our continued existence.
I was reading a paper about, like, the odds that we're in a simulation. I'm kind of convinced at this point. But, yeah, Cuties is it's a movie about little girls having some sort of dance troupe. It seems to be overly sexualized. I've not watched it. I did see a couple of YouTube videos about it, and the clips they used were, pretty inflammatory. I agree that we should probably look down upon and or cancel Netflix over this. I don't know about criminal charges. That might be overstepping.
Netflix indicted by Texas grand jury over lewd visual material in Cuties. The clips that I saw, I wouldn't disagree with this, but I really got to wonder, like, how did this get past? Like, if they've got a story to tell about the bad things that are happening to these young girls, I think they could have done it in a way that didn't do this.
You get that girl from, you ever see all those To Catch a Predator?
Yeah.
She looks like she's 12 years old. No, she's fully grown. And she's got a voice like a little mouse. But no, fully grown woman. I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah.
Find them, pay them a bunch of money, teach them to dance.
Recreate the awful things. And also, if Honey Boo Boo, like, that whole thing was okay, then... because I see that as a kind of child exploitation.
Yeah, exploiting children, yes. But they're not going for that. They're going for, like, the pornographic.
That is a form of exploit.
I guess, but is it illegal? I mean, we have a set of laws.
For underage kids, though? Like, what are you arguing?
No, I'm saying it's not illegal for little girls to dance like sluts. Is it?
No. Technically, no.
Yeah, so yes, we should condemn this, but using the legal system, no.
I think that what was depicted in the Netflix thing goes so far beyond the pale that I don't think it could be even. I don't think dancing goes far enough to describe what it is.
Yeah, I watched some clips because I was curious, and I had to turn it off because I was like, this is lewd, even for, like, Cardi B.
But you're talking about, you're just interpreting the law after the fact. We can't have a legal system that does that.
Yeah. It's a mess.
I don't know. I realize this is like defending the child pornographers from getting their Apple devices spied upon. I understand that. But still, this could bleed into a lot of other things.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway.
I would like to think that their parents would have been like, no, don't do this, but
I bet
too much to hope for.
That is probably like a really uncomfortable, like, parent-teacher association meeting. Although they're not doing it now because of the pandemic, right? They're fine at home, not having to face the judgment of their peers the way they should.
Wow.
Mass surveillance. We tried it. Remember when we tried it? I mean, I'm sure we're still trying
We're
it.
still trying it.
It didn't work. It gained nothing. They recently did that report where they didn't catch a single terrorist from all that. It's like, oh, well, that was fine. It was a good exercise. Europe are trying to be better about that kind of thing.
Europe's top court confirms no mass surveillance without limits. Well, I've got some bad news for them about the Five Eyes countries, Germany especially, because they're already doing mass surveillance without limits.
That's one of the things they mentioned. They said that Germany is not in compliance and would have to make some changes.
Wasn't that the third or fourth ruling, though, that Germany is not in compliance?
Seems to move slowly.
Yeah.
Or not at all.
I bet the next loophole is going to be that they do the spying from embassies. So it's like, it's not Germany that's spying, it's those Americans in the American embassy. And it just so happens that the American embassy runs right on top of the main fiber optic backbone for all of Germany. Who knew?
Turns out we knew because they were doing that back in the
90s.
the Snowden stuff too. Yeah. Well, EU lawmakers are also attacking the big tech companies. I guess they actually got started first. Let's give them credit.
I love this article. This article is so amazing.
They started the trend, and boy, the U.S. politicians just love it. Everybody does. They are, for once in a while, they actually get these tech leaders in a room and grill them. It's always entertaining.
The Guardian has the article. The headline is EU lawmakers ask Jeff Bezos whether Amazon spies on politicians. I don't know what the headline should have been, but it shouldn't have been that. What actually happened was Amazon had a job posting, and in the job description, it said, we're going to need you to monitor employees for attempts to unionize and organize. We need you to maybe go undercover, do that kind of stuff. But we also need you to monitor hostile politicians that are using the Amazon platform so that we can get a heads up on any action that a hostile politician might take. So, like, the job description literally said that. And so then the European Union was like, wait a minute. There's a job description here where you're going to keep an eye on enemy politicians? What does hostile politicians mean? And then the whole thing disappeared. And they were like, what? What are you talking about? No, it's... What? A hostile politician? I don't know. And then they just kind of played dumb.
Be a shame if someone were to see this record of you ordering a 5-gallon drum of lubricant.
That's what it seems to be. How insane is that, though, that they put that in the job description? Like, and it's like, first of all, Mr. Bezos, if employees want to organize and unionize, you cannot stop them. You cannot spy on them to stop them from doing that.
It's so obvious. And it really is, like life imitating art. All of these big tech leaders clearly think that they're above the law, but when they talk to the people in power, they are very, subservient, like yes sir, no sir, and but that's not how they think it goes, and they're probably right, because billions of dollars accomplishes a lot.
The job description is like, do you glad hand politicians? Can we stick you in with a bunch of politicians and you can convince them to buy ice from people that live inside the Arctic Circle or whatever? And I don't know.
You just described lobbying.
Yeah,
that's exactly how laws get written these days. France. Oh, you know what? We should have put this after the Cutie story.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't realize that at all. So France has figured out that the hottest things on YouTube, some of the biggest, click getters, and I bet a lot of them aren't using ad blockers, unlike our audience, are children. Children can't get enough YouTube, and boy, is it cheap and easy to use that as a babysitter. So there's all these channels that cater to children, but they're also usually hosted by children. And we have all these laws about how child actors get treated. Like, who takes care of their money, what can be done with it, how many hours can they work. But what about YouTube? It's the Wild West.
France passes new law to protect child influencers. There's nothing really bad here that I could go over this. France is looking at this and saying, okay, children are going to be popular online and make money. Let's set up stuff to be, stewards with the money that they make. Because there was a couple, I guess, in this court case of child influencers who are making over $1 million a year
There's the one kid that reviews toys. He makes way more than that, right?
I don't think he's in France though.
Oh no, he's in the U.S.
So,
and remember, again, this is in the U.S., but remember the parents that were doing practical jokes on their kids.
yeah, they were. That was bad. That ended badly for them.
That was criminal, and it should have been. That was a child abuse. But what if your kid, you put a video up and it gets 100,000 views, and you're like, oh, let's make 5 videos today, and little Johnny might be a little tired. That's what they're worried about.
Yeah.
I'll say, how do you enforce this though? Because like, if you're working from home, just doing YouTube videos of your family around your house, like, how can they prove that they were all shot back to back? Like, how many hours were worked in a day? Like, how do they prove any of that?
That would be tough. I don't know. I mean, I suppose you have like a caseworker or something if you suspect it.
Well,
won't be easy. Moving on to social media, we are plummeting faster and faster toward the black hole that is the election. And by the time you watch this, we'll be almost, 17 days out, 20 days out, something like that. And social media just, it's percolating to almost a boil at this point. And they're trying to figure out anything they can do to stop the madness.
Facebook has widened its ban on political ads as alarm raises over the election. You behave, young man, or I'm going to turn this ad system off. That's basically what Facebook is doing.
They'll never do that. That is their blood.
I haven't seen any. I have an ad blocker on, but I haven't really seen any political ads on Facebook. I don't know if that's just because I don't browse it very often or what, but maybe they've changed something this year.
YouTube ad revenue is way up as a result of political ad spending.
And they are cramming the ads onto our videos too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've taken steps to limit that because some people were really annoyed by that, but there's a really interesting mechanic in the new YouTube ad system, and that is if you skip ads a bunch, it starts giving you ads like every 3 minutes. So our videos are supposed to be an ad at the beginning and an ad at the end. But on some of the videos, it literally is like you skip the first ad, and then 2 minutes later you get another ad, and if you skip that one, 2 minutes later you'll get another ad, and so on and so forth. So I think YouTube is experimenting on audiences.
Yeah.
It's just going to be TV again.
Experimenting.
It's just going to be cable TV.
Yeah, once cable finally dies and there's no alternative, we'll have come full circle. The snake will have eaten itself, and we start again. The dark cycle. What will be the next YouTube? That's what we should get in on at first.
Floatplane.
We're too old.
If you'd like to support us, we have Floatplane and Patreon. ...
The other thing about Facebook is that they are clearly struggling to staff the moderators because, as we've learned, the moderators, they get PTSD basically within a couple of weeks. They watch some really horrific stuff, and it's hard to keep them working, especially during the pandemic. It's hard to keep them in an office somewhere. So what do? You turn to the robots, and things get weird.
Nudity algorithm wrongly blocked company's onion images, Facebook admits, and says the advertisements will be restored.
God, let's see the onions. They are. I can barely contain myself.
Canada's most sexually provocative onions.
Ad agencies, if you're paying attention, you need to come up with product photography that looks lewd but is in fact not, in order to trick the algorithms so that you will get free advertising from having innocuous images blocked.
Have you ever seen that Eddie Murphy movie? I can't remember the name of it, but they're an ad agency, and they do an ad, and it's literally like a woman like stuffing a whole banana in her mouth, and then she's got a pair of cherries, and she just sticks her tongue between them. I don't know if we'll be able to get away with this.
Nice.
But yeah, they point out that the publicity they got from this outrage far exceeded anything they could have purchased from Facebook. So yeah, if you can score that, it's a big win. Facebook has said they're going to try to fix it, but I mean, I suppose breasts are what it thought that was, maybe.
I think, yeah.
But
stupid algorithm.
Well, they are similar. Breasts have layers, and you just, you peel them back. It's just the same way.
Well, they got kind of a little wrinkly point going on there. I can see kind of, but like in the whole context of the entire image, when would breasts ever be arranged in that fashion?
Don't question the algorithm. The algorithm knows all.
Facebook is also probably in response to the election going hard on trying to weed out all of the biggest voices of disinformation, and one of the biggest of them all, of course, is the QAnon movement.
Facebook bans QAnon across all of its platforms, according to NBC News. The change is a significant escalation over its previous actions targeting QAnon, were the broadest rules the social media has put in place in its history. So this is millions of posts. So this is a lot.
I've never understood the QAnon thing. I don't care enough to really get into it, but I get a different answer no matter when I ask and who I ask.
The thing that I have heard and seem to recall from many years ago was that wasn't this like the 4chan Pizzagate meme? Like, wasn't that where it started?
It's very focused on Trump. They think Trump is doing a lot of stuff in secret, and that the whole rest of the government is secretly trying to destroy him. And then it gets really weird with there is sort of like the child stuff, but I think not only are they now abusing the children sexually, they are also eating them.
Trump is kind of retweeting stuff about that right now, so.
Well, Trump is doing a lot of antagonistic tweeting. It's kind of his thing. And like we talked about last week, every social media company is moving to try and flag disinformation. Now, in the past, they've been tentative to go after Trump's tweets because he is the president. But it seems like now, more and more, they're getting more brazen about just being like, no, this is not real.
Facebook has removed a Trump post falsely saying that the flu is more lethal than the thing that's causing the thing that's creating the new normal. So he immediately tweeted again, of course.
Twitter did not remove the post. They did give it that, what was the name of the new thing? Bird song or something like that?
The label?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They add context to the tweet.
Yeah. So, but it made it obvious that that was not correct.
And then
he immediately tweeted, Section 230, rah!
Yeah.
On Twitter.
Rip Level
Back
1
and forth.
forums. if we
That's
reveal that.
I don't think he really understands what Section 230 is or does. I just think that
he just wants people to stop not giving him his way online.
That's just purely a swipe at Twitter so he can keep tweeting whatever the hell he wants.
Okay, there is a huge disaster in all of that we're talking about that has many, many subtle and nuanced layers to it. Set that aside for a second. Literally, our Attorney General is using the threat of the whole Section 230 immunity not to try to improve whatever that is. Because I will concede that there are problems with that on that side. But they're literally trying to use the Section 230 thing as a cudgel to get other things that are completely unrelated to civil online discourse. That is all that they're doing. It is transparent, and it is terrible, and it is dishonest.
That's unprecedented. I don't think the government's ever done anything like that.
Literally used one thing in order to get another thing, because it's like, oh, you're doing this thing that we could say is illegal, but we'll ignore that if you help us out over here. It's like, okay.
And one of the things that they are doing in terms of, getting back at these terrible tech companies is talking about antitrust and breaking them up. They're too big. And Facebook's argument against it is interesting. Remember, too big to fail? Facebook is apparently too big to break up.
Facebook leak hints at its defense against a government-ordered breakup. Instagram and WhatsApp supposedly are too integrated to leave. It's like, oh, this will just put us out of business because nothing works without any other component. Meh. Seems to me that's like, what was it, United Steel?
Given the requirement that they absolutely had to do this or go out of business, how many weeks do you think it would take them to get that done?
Like 1?
2 on the outside. They got to test it. So that was a leak. Somebody got the document, and this is their plan. If it were to happen, seems like it might. It won't happen probably before the election. Probably not before next year.
Probably not before the election.
The question is, will Biden have the same taste for blood when it comes to the tech companies if he gets elected?
I don't think so. I've been reading more about Cory Doctorow's plan for what to do with the big technology companies, and I don't fully understand what exactly he's got in mind with that, but it seems like a more interesting approach. It's like you use their giant juggernaut size against them rather than to try to break them up, which will probably not work.
This is a repeat of that other story that we already did. I'm going to delete it. For those of you following along in the one tab, this is a repeat story. TikTok. TikTok is a place that scares me because I'm old. I don't understand it. And these kind
Also the Chinese.
These kind of headlines are just, I'm just like, oh, it's a pit of darkness.
Scam TikTok profiles made $500,000 pushing scam apps to underage children on both Apple and Google app stores. So these are apps where you buy stuff, but you don't get anything.
Yeah, they kind of they said they were between $2 and $12, but once you get the app, it really doesn't do much, or it does things that are so basic that you already have an app that does that better. But these influencers were pushing them, and that was enough to sell quite a few of them. It's not allowed.
Linode.com/level1.
Would you call us an influencer? I don't know.
How's that going to protect you from TikTok?
No, I'm just saying, like what you said about, it's influencers pushing something, and that was enough.
Linode has some features.
You can get something out of Linode.
They're not a hollow.
No.
They're also way more than $12, but it's worth it.
Yeah, well, you could do the $5 a month plan. That'll do a lot.
And finally...
Oh, this one hit home.
Yeah, we are totally guilty of this. But I got to say, I think our audience, you can say what you want about their mental health, but they'll watch them.
YouTube apologizes for mocking long videos. This is really cut deep. Like it was like this person, they were 15 minutes into the video, I guess. That was the joke. And then it was like, all right, let's get started. And at least we're faster to the point than that. But I mean, come on.
Yeah, I've been thinking about my next video. I'm not going to be quick about it. I got a whole soliloquy I'm brewing, chat.
See, that's the crazy thing, is that a lot of our audience really does like that. And, with what we do, it is unusual to have as much of our audience as we have that are willing to pay for it on Linode, through the affiliate thing, or Floatplane or Patreon.
But I think that's the thing here is YouTube is bashing it because in most cases, they get the max return from those short, quick hits.
Yeah, and it's not that they're actually interested in just being a platform for creators. It's they want the thing that generates them the most money. And that's apparently giving you an ad every 2 minutes if you click skip ads.
Right. So YouTube wants you to go down the crack road, quick, heavy, high, but it wears off. We're more of like a nice, pure, slow heroin.
Of what, red pill? Is that the right color?
You'll never feel as good as
really
you do.
Mixing analogies here. I don't think the red and or blue pill had psychoactive effects.
I don't know, that mirror melted pretty weird.
That sound was also like a dial-up modem sound. I mean, that was pretty trippy.
It was a good movie. Can't argue with that.
All right, what do we got for tomorrow?
I haven't decided. It'll be business and something. Whatever is the smallest.
Oh, we're going to talk about the AMD news finally.
Oh, you're so excited about that. Krista, give us a AMD sycophant goodbye.
Goodbye. every picture of Lisa Sue that I've ever seen, she's always holding up and smiling. And I just looked at a lot of pictures. Yeah. I just looked at a lot of pictures of her for a patron drawing.
You should do a series of tweets where you Photoshop something other than the chip and between your fingers.
Oh. It should be like a potato chip.
It could be a variety of things.
It could.
Get started on that. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye. Hello, chat. Today is October 14th, 2020. We're doing business and robot.
Business
Release
in the front.
me from this flesh prison.
Robot in the back.
We inch ever closer to the event horizon of the singularity.
I like to start out with anything to do with the FCC. This is not directly related to the FCC, but it is related to how the FCC has failed us and how we continue to be screwed. How's that house hunt going, Krista?
like garbage right now. There's not a lot of houses for sale. We did just get a bunch of foreclosures come on the market, so
How about?
Good time.
I guess a foreclosure is good because it's more likely those already have internet.
Is it just me, or like the number of estate sales also kind of off the charts?
yeah, I've seen a lot
I've seen
of
it slow down a little bit.
like houses that are clearly being cleaned out, and they were clearly belonging to old people because they had the chairlift up their stairs.
A lot
And
of
trash everywhere.
I've seen a lot of commercial properties going up for auction because they were foreclosed. Anyway, the internet problem is a big deal, especially in the more rural areas. And if you ever wondered why it's so bad, here's a perfect example.
AT&T kills DSL and leaves tens of millions of homes without fiber internet. AT&T stops connecting new DSL users. Only 28% of AT&T territory has full fiber. Why? Why would they?
It's a snail on the mouse
Why?
See what they did there.
because they're slow.
And it's literally because they can't. I don't know. This is some sort of game of chicken with the federal government to get more tax dollars. But AT&T was literally already given. If you go to all the way back to the '96 Telecommunications Act, it's like $500 billion of tax breaks at this point to run fiber optic internet everywhere. Guess what they didn't do?
Not only that, but their last merger, one of the conditions was you have to put fiber in a certain percentage of homes. Seriously, if you don't do this, we're going to, undo the merger or whatever. I don't know how they would do that. But so they went to the letter, to the 0.0 whatever percentage of what they had to fulfill and stopped. And now they will never do any more. They didn't put fiber in all those places. They're just like, we're kind of done.
Are any of our Congress critters angry about this? Because, like,
They
I think
literally
at this
don't
point,
understand.
there's a really good argument to say that internet should be a utility because right now, like, everyone needs internet and a lot of people can't get it.
You ever have a bug when you're programming or you're just working on software or whatever, trying to install something, and you go to the forum and you post something, and then you get like 5 people that reply, and they're like, I don't know, it's working fine for me. That's how I see our government.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, in my $1 million per home neighborhood, everything seems to work wonderfully.
Why don't you just go to your second home? It probably has internet, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why you people have a problem with the cops. They were doing lawn work for me the other day.
That's really true. That's the thing that happens in the really nice neighborhoods around here.
So yeah.
And this.
So AT&T getting out of the DSL business and getting out a lot of businesses. The merger where they had to fulfill that was the DirecTV merger. They paid a lot of money for DirecTV. Might have been a mistake.
AT&T offloading DirecTV would be a fire sale as the company weighs low bids. Yeah, that's because there's literally no customers anymore. It was like, oh, we have to run fiber to a certain number of our homes in order, or you'll demerge. Well, good luck with that demerger because there's no customers left. We'll show you.
They're looking, if the offers they have now are the only ones they get, they're looking at maybe a third of their original investment.
I think that's an overinvestment. Like this didn't make any sense to begin with. This would be like a lawn care company buying a plumbing business. Like what? How does that even make sense?
And not only that, but now if you were to be one of those buyers now, it's like buying a plumbing business where we're all of a sudden just teleporting our poop. Because SpaceX is going to change the game. Or not SpaceX. What's the name of the...
Starlink?
Starlink, yeah.
Starlink, yeah.
Starlink is going to change the game here. And
Well,
all new competitors are going to need to do that.
There has been a robbery. We have been robbed because the money to have fiber optics everywhere, which Starlink, I don't care how good Starlink is, Starlink does not replace fiber optics everywhere. That is transformative economically. Our economy would be in way better shape if we had that level of connectivity. We literally, as taxpayers, have paid for that, and we don't have it. We don't have
Several
anything
times
anywhere
over,
close.
we paid for it.
We,
and it's
we have
still not
nothing.
here.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're going to run electricity to your neighborhood, and it's going to be great. There's no electricity. They're like, here's some D batteries. That's electricity. It's like that's not. That's
I mean, technically, yes, but that's not really what we funded. Is it? Like,
So yeah, you're screwed. And if you live in an area which only had AT&T, you're screwed. But even if you live in an area where you can get cable, this empowers the cable monopoly even more.
That's like half of the reason I'm moving is because the cable in my neighborhood has just been crap. It was okay for a while, and it's been crap for like a year or two, and it's just like, I give up. Guess I got to move.
Well, you could get internet over your wireless, which is a thing that the ISPs are trying to make happen, and good Lord, no one wants that. They say, hey, you know what? You got that phone. Why don't you just use that phone's connection? That's a terrible idea. But if you have to do that, there's a new phone maker in town. Maybe they'll give you a better experience.
Qualcomm to launch its own premium Snapdragon branded phones that will raise the bar. You know, we've done a lot of stories about new phones being released, and I can't help but notice a pattern that during the year when there's this global situation going on, Google and several other companies didn't opt for Qualcomm's flagship processor.
I don't know who's using it at this point.
Yeah, so did Qualcomm literally have to do this out of desperation?
They got a big warehouse full of these chips. Like, oh, we got to do something.
Literally nobody wants the flagship Snapdragon.
So these guys are doing a gaming phone. We have seen, was it Asus that did the gaming phone?
Yeah, the ROG phone, which actually turned out pretty good.
But the thing about it is, no wireless carriers sell the ROG as part of their, like, you know, amortize the cost of the phone with your plan type of deal. You have to buy it unlocked and use it. Not a lot of people do that. And it seems like Qualcomm will have to do the same thing unless they can make some big deals. I don't think Verizon wants them.
No.
The new generation of consoles is here, and it seems like nobody can get a pre-order. I haven't really followed that, but I see a lot of links on the deal site, and it'll be like, get your PS5 sold out. So
kind of like Nvidia, although we're going to talk about that one too.
a couple of people have gotten their hands on them, and they have torn them down and compared them.
PS5 has faster Wi-Fi and USB ports than the Xbox Series X. So PS5 has 10 gigabit ports and a better mix of USB-C and USB Type A, whereas the Xbox Series X, it's all 5 gigabit across the board. Also, PS5 is Wi-Fi 6, whereas the Wi-Fi is not quite as advanced in the Xbox Series X.
What kind of person who is at all serious about online gaming is gaming over Wi-Fi?
Yeah, that's true.
Come
Although
on.
some people don't have a choice.
I guess that's true. Yeah. The big news for most of you losers this week is the AMD thing. They announced their new processors. Now, before we get into this, I will say Intel also made an announcement. I did not include it because I'm not trying to jump on the AMD bandwagon here, but Intel didn't give us much. I mean, that's like a long way out.
March of 2021.
And we don't have a lot of details.
Like, what is going on? Like, you just keep your mouth shut. Like, you don't. The day before, it's like we're gonna have a new CPU too. If it was gonna be like November 15th, okay, yeah, make your announcement, or maybe even November 30th or like December, March 2021. You just keep your mouth shut and be like, we got new CPUs coming. You don't say anything. That's like, yeah, we got nothing. Go ahead and buy this.
Well, the one thing they had, and we've often talked about this, sometimes in jest, but Intel was hanging their hat on that, like, okay, all right, whatever. Maybe yours are half the price and they're almost as good. But we have the best gaming CPU in the world. We've got it, not you. It's us. And AMD, with this press release, struck directly at their heart.
AMD reveals its new Zen 3 Ryzen 5000 processors, including the world's best gaming CPU. Now, immediately the internet sprung into action, and everybody created an opinion video to reveal all of the stuff in the presentation. It's kind of weird because of the new normal and stuff. They're going to release 4 CPUs: the 16 core, the 12 core, the 8 core, and the 6 core. A little bit of a price hike there. I was kind of surprised by that. But the boost clocks look pretty good. The performance they outlined looked pretty good. The CPUs fit in the same power envelope, still 105 watt TDP. And for the performance they showed, it looks pretty good. Of course, it's not been independently verified. Nobody's got their hands on these yet. There's a lot of grains of salt you got to take with all this. But still, things look interesting.
And if what they say is true, at $800, how do you think Intel's going to price their next flagship?
I mean, Intel was already pricing their flagship at $1,700.
That's what I'm saying. Are they going to try and compete with that?
I think it does look like there's a little bit of an opportunity for like the Intel 10600K. That's only like $260 on Newegg, and the 10600K will run all 6 cores at 5 gigahertz. And that would be shocking if that's the new like gaming recommendation, because it's, $250 or $220 if Intel just bumps the price down a little bit.
We also got an announcement without as many details about AMD's new graphics cards, which they're going to tell us more about later. And perhaps they will compete with Nvidia. I don't know. Traditionally, AMD has not gone against Nvidia's top offering. But there is one huge problem with Nvidia's top offering right now.
Nvidia CEO anticipates supply shortages for the RTX 3080 and 3090 to last until 2021. Yeah, you can't. Buying these cards is really hard. I've got bots on the matter, and I've been able to successfully buy a couple of cards, but none of them have actually been delivered, or the order's been canceled, or it's been like kind of scammy people buying the card or like selling cards or whatever. This doesn't make any sense. Like, how did Nvidia screw up this launch this badly?
Now they claim that they are cranking them out at full tilt. It is just unprecedented demand that is causing this.
If it's unprecedented demand, it's not your retailer type buyers, because the retail chain, like the quantities that are entering the retail chain, like if you just look at, okay, how many cards entered North America, it seems to be a very small number based on the intelligence that I've been able to gather. So unless there's a mining company somewhere that's paying, $100 a card or more, a premium, to get their hands on these, and they never entered the market, that doesn't seem to be true.
Or their production just can't keep up. Like it's just in terms of, all the factory shutdowns and stuff that have happened this year.
You can only make one card a day.
Yeah, but most of Asia's opened back up, right? They're not even locking down anymore. So
Asus's whole thing last year, or not last year, but like 2 years ago, was that the 2080 Ti, the flagship, that was completely made by robots. So they were like, our cards are not going to fail because literally human beings are not involved.
If it gets them to you faster. The other thing that Nvidia might be distracted by is their acquisition of ARM. And that has upset a lot of people, especially over in Great Britain, because ARM was like their only technology thing that they had. They were like, no, this is ours. You're a U.S. company. We know what you're going to do. And I think this might be to just try and smooth some feathers.
Nvidia pledges to build Britain's largest supercomputer following the $40 billion bid for ARM. It's like, don't worry. You guys are going to, it's what was it called? Cambridge One? Yeah, Cambridge One is intended for AI research and research in healthcare. And yeah, Britain's largest supercomputer. Woo!
This is like when your dad promises he's going to take you camping one weekend.
That's where all the 3080s went.
Your baseball game.
And he's just drunk the whole time. This is, so AI health research. They did point out here that we've been the big tech companies have been throwing a lot of AI research against the vid, and hasn't really paid any dividends at this point. AI doesn't seem to be very good at it. Loser robots. If you are looking to do some learning about robots and machine learning and that kind of thing, but due to the current situation, you don't have a lot of dollars in your pocket, you might look into this new offering from Nvidia.
Nvidia unveils the Jetson Nano 2GB for students and robot hobbyists. The $59 kit comes with an online training and certification. It's basically the Nvidia of Raspberry Pi, but $60. Nvidia, this is going to have to be a loss leader for mindshare. $60, you're still making a profit. You're going to have to sell this for like $20.
What's Raspberry Pi down to for the
35.
The entry level?
Oh, 10.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was that the 2 GB version?
Yeah, it's not much. 1 or 2 gigs.
But still.
You can get an 8 gig Raspberry Pi now, and it's only $70.
I mean, I spend more than that at Taco Bell. Skip a meal, you got yourself a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah. And it's fun to tinker with.
Apple has often been accused
This story's amazing.
of causing not just e-waste, but also, like just attacking their customers and making them buy planned obsolescence, that type of thing. This really speaks to that based on the numbers, because this was actually a pretty low percentage, but it was also a pretty brazen move by the people who pulled it off.
Yeah.
They kind of had to know that they'd get caught.
Apple sues Canadian recycling firm for reselling 100,000 devices instead of destroying them. So Apple apparently, they had a bunch of leftover devices. These were iPads, phones, and watches. And 3 employees, according to the suit here, that unbeknownst to the company, took the devices and sold them overseas to be refurbished. And so this was not a true, let's break it down into glass and aluminum and that kind of recycling. This was let's fix the device and get it out the door. Now, Apple's argument, which I kind of get, is refurbishers were buying these and probably putting non-Apple parts in them to get them up and running again. But at the same time, if your number one concern is the environment, then it is better for the environment to continue to use these devices for longer than to destroy them. But Apple wanted to see them destroyed because they did not want those sales on secondary markets. If you can't get a recycled iPad with a replacement battery, then you're going to have to buy a new one from Apple. And so these refurbished things enter into or affect Apple's bottom line. So Apple's going for blood. They want $27 million and all of the money made from these devices being sold.
And interest.
And interest. So,
and there's something going forward.
Yeah.
Another
this
payment.
Is hideously evil of Apple, in my opinion. So Apple is not a hippie, good for the environment. We built a robot to take our stuff apart so we don't have to worry about it. Their motives are quite naked here.
Also, it's crazy because we often talk about if you do business with Apple, and this came up with the whole authorized repair thing.
Yeah.
They get an unprecedented amount of visibility into your business. So much that the way they caught these guys is that Apple, part of their agreement was they got to go in and look at the security footage. And it wasn't this company that found it. It was Apple employees. And they were like, hey, look at this corner. This corner is not under surveillance. What's happening in this corner? Turns out what was happening in that corner is they were offloading a bunch of Apple products and shipping them to China.
So they were under contract to recycle the products. I think that's a form of recycling.
And what was it, less than 12%?
It was 30%.
That was stolen?
Yeah, because Apple said that for the phones, they could see that the phones were on the network. That was 17%. So they figured that because they can see the phones, but they can't see the iPads or the watches, that it's about equal percentages of each of the 3. 18% of devices shipped to Geek were active on wireless carrier networks, but they can't see the iPads in the same way. So it's probably about 30%.
I think they're probably punching that number up just to get the max.
But still, would you rather see those devices go to a landfill or get a little bit more mileage in that secondary market?
Well, they're Apple devices, so I would rather see them I would rather see all the Apple devices go to the landfill, but I understand your point.
Yeah. Not necessarily the landfill, I guess, just let's grind up the glass. It's no,
reduce,
it's not.
reuse, recycle. You're just reusing it. But
Yeah.
And saving it from having to be recycled, but that's not okay.
Listen, this is a death trap fire hazard because somebody put the cheapest lithium-ion battery possible in this. They just put a sticker on it that says refurbished by, Joe's refurbishing service, and, problem solved. Apple's whole position that's oh, we do that for customer safety. That's BS. Just like their whole, we do it for the environment, also BS.
We have a slew of big box office hits that, well, we don't know if they're hits yet, but they probably would have been, that were supposed to come out and are now saying, you know what, things are a little too messed up. I think maybe no. This one's about one in particular, but I think at least 3 so far.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, the James Bond one, and
Dune. Denis Villeneuve?
Villeneuve.
I don't know. His Dune has been delayed. It is not going to be released. So
this year.
Yeah, it's not till October of next year. I was actually kind of disappointed by this because I was looking forward to watching it.
So they're clearly expecting a long tail on this whole pandemic situation. I mean, they're waiting a whole year. And the movie theaters were kind of... There was the Tenet movie that came out. It did terribly. No one went to see it. That was the first one. That was the balloon that they floated to see what would happen.
Literally nothing is what happened.
Bad things happened. So I think this was this and the other 2 that I mentioned were the last nails in that coffin. They're giving up.
Regal Movie Chain will close all 536 U.S. theaters on Thursday until further notice. Bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Yeah, well,
I don't think they're coming back.
What do you think? You think they were covering the electricity
No.
to keep those things running with the number of people who were going?
No.
They absolutely, yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
They absolutely weren't. That affects us, right? The theater here is a
Is it
Regal, I
Regal?
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read, it wasn't anything related to the news, but I read that there are a lot of insurance companies that just had pandemic insurance as just riders, just something they could tack on, an extra few bucks. And people have been trying, people like some of these insurance or the franchise operators have been trying to claim the pandemic insurance, and they have not been able to. The insurance companies are fighting tooth and nail.
It's almost like insurance is a scam. And they would have been better off just putting the money they put toward insurance in a savings account.
It's like, look, we were only charging you $1 extra a month. You can't expect us to pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's like, well, the chances were remote. I mean, there was an actuary that calculated that. It's just that, you rolled a 1 for 2020, and now you got to pay up.
What do you think? This is a business based on gambling? Apple.
I was going to
Go
say
ahead.
one more thing. I think the little local movie theater, it's not part of a chain in my hometown, is now doing limited screenings so you can pay for just your family to watch a movie by yourselves.
They used to
That's
do
how they're
that
saying
for. You could do birthday parties like that. I remember in some theaters.
I think that's what they're doing, and then they disinfect everything between each family visiting.
How much does that cost? You think?
I think it's $99.
That's
Listen,
not
if you
bad.
don't have anything else left to do, they could charge $150. It's like, what are you going to do? You've been at
That's
home
true
for
in my
6
town
months.
Anyway.
You think those are all digital projectors at this point, right? If you're like, all right, listen, I'm going to give you 500, and just give us the keys, and let us use all the concessions we want, and plug this PC in up there, and these wireless controllers.
I've always wanted to play Doom on one of those screens.
Oh, that would be so bright. It'd be crazy.
Apple may be destroying the earth with their terrible policies on recycling and planned obsolescence, but maybe they're going to be the angel that saves us from the darkness that is social media, because they are striking fear into the heart of those giant tech companies based on this thing that they're planning to do. Now, we reported on this, iOS 14 was supposed to roll out these new features that had to do with the targeted advertising. They have decided not to do that for whatever reason, but it is on the horizon.
Facebook revenue chief says that ad-supported model is under assault amid Apple privacy changes. They're freaking out because Apple is going to allow users to reset their unique ID, which advertisers use to build a profile. And this is all doom and gloom, but it's not really that way. You can still, the whole deal with advertising, we got to do the video on this, because the whole deal with advertising is if you want to buy advertising on the New York Times, you're going to have to pay a lot of money for the advertising in the New York Times. But if somebody watches the Level 1 news and also watches the New York Times, you can use this little ad ID to build that profile. And so you can pay Level 1 practically nothing and still be advertising to somebody that, reads the New York Times or whatever, because you're paying us and not the New York Times. That's the whole reason this works, is to try to ultimately pay really high value advertisement outlets like the New York Times. Well, historically it has been. I mean, I don't know, it's debatable, but to pay those outlets less for advertising, so you can still do contextual advertising, just not super targeted advertising, and that's the difference. Yeah.
We do need to do that video because we need to debate it. Because your space communism ain't going to work. Preview for that video. Cisco's had a bad week. A real bad week.
I don't think they care. This isn't that bad.
They got a lot of money, but I don't think in any universe, no matter how much money you have, well, I guess,
They pulled an Apple.
Bezos, he gave away half of his and didn't really seem to sweat it that much. But I'm sure, there was a moment when he was staring in the mirror one morning and a little tear rolled down one of his cheeks.
Cisco is evolving into Oracle. They'll be Oracle in another 5 years.
But Cisco pulled the trick, and we have seen this trick so many times. Last week, who did it last week?
Apple?
Was it Apple?
It was Apple.
Oh, yeah, the watch.
Yeah.
The blood monitor.
Yeah.
Where they see a technology that they love, and they call those people up, and they're like, oh, man, we love that technology. We'd like to meet and talk about it.
You guys are so clever. It's like, wow, Apple thinks I'm clever. Let me just share my stuff. I'm protected by U.S. patents.
And they're so starstruck, and they're like, oh, wow. Yeah, let me tell you all about it. Let me tell you how cool it is. And they're like, oh, yeah, I like that. And then maybe they hire a few of your employees, and you're like, that's weird, but
Or all of them.
they're going to give us a bunch of money, right? So it's going to be okay. And then
The Register reports that Cisco has been ordered to cough up $2 billion, yes, $2 billion, plus royalties after ripping off businesses' cybersecurity patents. So the finding was for $700 million, but because it was so willful and egregious, the judge tripled it and actually chastised the lawyers. It's like, look, the lawyer for Cisco, if he had been just a little bit less civil, I would have gone for even more. And so Cisco's also got to pay this company royalties to the tune of like over $150 million over the next couple of years for their technology, because they literally, like Cisco said, no, we're not going to use this because these reasons, and our technology is different because these reasons. But those two lines of reasoning were not compatible with one another. Like, both of them couldn't be true. And when the judge pointed it out, Cisco was like,
All right.
The Cisco lawyers were so petulant during this case, they actually filed a bunch of motions saying that, no, we don't want to use Zoom. We want to use Cisco's product for web conferencing.
Yeah.
And the judge had clearly had enough of their crap. And, 2.5 multiplier. That legal team cost Cisco quite a bit of money.
Cisco totally just ripped the poor little company off. Sad panda.
Nintendo Switch is a hugely popular gaming console. I think it was their best-selling ever. Did it finally hit that?
Yeah.
But it does have a dark secret. I actually dropped mine and only realized I almost never use it. Like 2 weeks after it, I'd only been playing this one game, and I didn't need the right stick for it. My right stick is dead.
Oh, no.
Oh.
And, as this article points out, 80 bones to get a new pair of Joy-Cons. Now, you don't have to drop them. It turns out maybe just using it for a while will also have some detrimental effects.
A literal child and his mom sue Nintendo over a Joy-Con drift. The class action lawsuit alleges that the game company hasn't done enough to address known problems with its controllers. I really enjoyed Nintendo owns a bunch of media, and Nintendo's headlines were like, mom sues Nintendo for $5 million because her Joy-Con stopped working, which is a little kind of inflammatory. But I realized, wow, Nintendo is actually kind of manipulating the message here, because this is a class action suit to just get Nintendo to fix it. Like, she's actually not asking for a lot of money, but because this is a widespread problem, it's going to take a lot of money to get people replacement Joy-Cons. But in all of Nintendo's media messaging, they're like, she's suing us for $5 million because her Joy-Cons are broken. It's like, no, Nintendo, that's not what this is about.
There is also another class action suit. And, I don't know. I've never tested it, but it does seem like eventually, unless you were very lucky. And when they say drift, what they mean is, like, if you start a game and just put it down and no one is touching it, your character will move just a little bit. There's a little bit of digital messaging coming in even when you're not touching the controller.
That's apparently a problem if you're playing games that require precision operations.
Which is like a lot of them.
Is anybody pro gaming on the Switch?
Overwatch is on the Switch, and I can't imagine that being a good experience, but people play it on there.
Well, yeah, like stuff like PUBG on the phone. I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
These kids, their newfangled technology. Tesla is not a big fan of people looking under the hood, as it were, even though there's nothing under the hood in a Tesla. But all that software has some interesting nuggets in it, and once in a while, we get a Tesla hacker who tells us about it.
Tesla hacker reveals what the driver-facing camera is looking for. So these front-facing cameras have been there for a while, but they haven't really been activated until the last software update. But now that they are, they're looking for driver blinded. Dark, eyes closed, eyes down, eyes normal, eyes up, head down, head trunk.
What's head trunk?
No idea.
Truncated if you've lost your head while driving.
Looking left, looking right. Phone use, Sunglasses, eyes likely normal. Sunglasses likely eyes down.
Did you take that one personally? It's been so long because of the pandemic, it's been so long since I've been in the car with you and been fearing for my life.
No, I've done a good job to not use my phone.
We've heard that
I
before.
citation needed.
The other thing about Tesla is, they have the whole app integration. The whole Tesla world is tied in with your phone. It can act as a key, and it can take care of your maintenance scheduling and stuff like that. But it has some features that people think are a little too easy to accidentally trigger.
Tesla owner says he butt dialed a 4,280 autopilot upgrade and is still waiting on a refund. Dr. Ali Vazari, I guess that's his name. He got the performance upgrade through the app. He had the app on his phone.
I think it's the self-driving.
And somehow, self-driving, it's a bunch of things. But yeah, self-driving enhancements and some other enhancements. And apparently you can order it through the app, but it doesn't have confirmation. And Apple was like, that's weird. It should have confirmation. But there were other people that had the same thing. Like one of them was famous author Nassim Taleb, who also had the same thing happen. Like he accidentally ordered the upgrade while the phone was in his shirt pocket, and then he couldn't do it. Stefan Peterson. Yeah. Several people.
Here's how you do it.
And apparently just tap pay. And then it's like, okay.
Click.
But it's supposed to confirm or something, but it doesn't.
5,400 for that.
Auto park summon, traffic control, auto steer on city streets coming soon.
Do you think that is... Do you get all future updates with that? Or is this new magical one that he's talking about?
That's probably going to cost that. The full self-driving, that's going to be an extra.
It's going to be more?
Yeah, probably another $5,000.
Well, I am not looking to buy a Tesla ever. I mean, maybe when I'm super old, I'll have to, just because they don't sell internal combustion anymore. Although, maybe I can time it where I buy an internal combustion in that last year and take really good care of it. And I'll be the old man. But people are like, oh, he's making so much noise.
We like the people around here that are still driving like a Ford Fairlane. It's like, look at it, it's beautiful.
Exactly. And, like driving 50 miles to the last gas station to fill up.
What are you talking? You got a distillery where your Amazon delivery driver brings you gasoline twice a week.
But I don't know if I will for sure, but I am interested, let's say, in SpaceX satellite internet. Or not SpaceX, but Starlink, yeah. And they said SpaceX here. That's what got me. It's not SpaceX.
It's not
PC Magazine.
Elon Musk public beta for SpaceX's satellite internet, that's Starlink, will be available soon. So right now, I guess they just launched another 70 satellites. They've got about 770 in orbit, and that's currently enough to support connections of about 100 megabit in the northern half of the United States.
We did the story about the Oregon emergency people. They were using it, and they said they loved it. And they were getting the 30 milliseconds, too.
Yeah.
Oh,
soon,
it can't
Krista.
come quick enough. Well, how jealous will you be if I manage, like, this comes out and it's really, really good, and I can get a house out in the country away from everybody else with internet?
I'm pretty happy with my current situation.
How dare you?
You'll be like, I wish I could get a pizza, and will somebody mow my lawn? We have learned that neither you nor your husband are lawn mowers. You know nothing about it.
No, that was the one chore I never had to do growing up.
Yeah, get ready
to cousin come over and do our lawn.
Get ready for a rain of grasshoppers to just be launching into your face the entire time.
That's why you got to convert. Don't just do a monoculture of grass. You got to make it a polyculture and make it a food forest.
See, I don't think you're going to stay.
With it.
I don't think you're going to stay motivated for all this stuff.
That's the thing. Is like it's supposed to be low maintenance because you're planting native plants.
All right, we'll see. I expect a full range of videos about that when that day comes.
That would be cool. I'll probably make a lot of mistakes when I first start, but it'll be cool.
That's part of it, People learn from your mistakes. That's the joy of making videos on YouTube.
Of computing.
In Tesla, in other news, they did have the big quarter. They shipped a lot of cars. A lot more than anybody ever predicted, which is weird because who has money to buy a Tesla right now? But they have some darkness, and this is a little vague. I never got any details on exactly what happened here, but it sounds ominous.
Former Tesla employee maliciously sabotaged company, according to the report. Now, the article talks about how the FBI was involved, but it wasn't clear if they were talking about this attempt at sabotage or a previous one. But there was a criminal organization that was literally trying to pay somebody to plant malware so that they could ransomware Tesla. We don't know.
Could just be another reason to tweet. Who knows? Could just be a guy like, peeing in the corner. That would be sabotage, right? Moving on to the robot news. A lot of people are living their lives online and doing Zoom meetings. And some people have really garbage cameras or bad lighting, or, they wear a shirt that's the same color as their bedspread and blend into it. That type of thing. Nvidia says it has the answer, and it has to do with machines.
Nvidia says its AI can fix some of the biggest problems in video calls. So it will turn your head to where it's supposed to be pointing. It'll fix lighting, and also the compression is completely insane. They had MPEG compression versus what they were doing, and the compression is literally just bananas.
They got a video. You can look at all the different features. There's a lot of stuff it can do. Is anybody that worried about that? I mean, as long as you can see that it's you and you can see the sync with your mouth, it seems like that's enough.
It seems like it's just one more step for a clever, enterprising person to replace themselves with an avatar of themselves, and then they can ask their avatar, what happened today? And they can condense the 8 hours of meetings that day into the 10 minutes of relevant information.
I don't understand,
I've totally never done that.
Almost none of my clients, when we do phone calls, sometimes they'll have their cam on and then they realize no one else does and they immediately turn it off. When you're doing business calls, why do you need the camera on?
I did a call and I was the only no camera.
Really?
Yeah. There was another no camera and then they turned theirs on. I think they were peer pressured into it.
I don't know. What a mess.
Robots, we've seen a lot of stories like this, but it seems to be getting better, and it seems to be moving more into highly populated areas because they can go vertical with it. This is the robot farmer.
The farm of the future might be in Compton, inside a warehouse, and run partly by robots. So it's just vertical. It's vertical farming. Having it indoors means that pest control and stuff like that is a lot easier to do. But it's aquaponic. Is that what the term is? There's not soil, but they sort of do things. But there is a little bit of a nutrient bath.
There's a ton of different ways to describe it that are slightly different. Hydroponic means no soil. Aquaponic, I think, has an extra feature somehow.
Isn't aquaponic where it's water and then there's fish in it and the fish poop in it and that's nutrients for the plants?
Yeah, that might be the aqua part of it. But as you can see here, it's just stacks and stacks and stacks of grow lights, big LEDs, and a watering system.
They were doing kale. Is that kale? Yeah.
Krista, can you imagine if you had this system and it was just stacked with some AK-47 or some Northern Lights?
I'm not growing weed. I am growing lettuce right now. That grows.
The devil's lettuce. We know. We get it.
I'm also growing garlic, and I'm planning on planting some onions soon.
Pretty cool.
It looks like these are all leafy greens. I wonder if they've tried any other vegetables yet.
I think the leafy greens lend themselves well to the rotating harvest.
Yeah.
You have to wear your anti-grow light glasses that makes you cool and futuristic, and everybody gets their same jumper.
There's a picture of them with the purple lights, and it reminds me of Empyrean. Neat.
Across the pond, they still... Well, I shouldn't say that. It's just a different kind of thing. Around here, when you go hunting, you get a high-caliber rifle, and you put some skull in your lip, and you go out on your own, or maybe with a small group, and you stalk those animals, and you shoot them from a distance.
Start murdering bears.
They have a different way of doing it over in the UK, and it has to do with dogs, which is different. Some people say that it is inhumane. The way it works is your dogs run an animal until it is literally too exhausted to go any further, and it basically just collapses. And so what would we do if to get that same experience? without hurting the poor little animals.
Hunting MPs want to develop a game robot. So, I don't know. I think we could write the screenplay for this. We'll get the Boston Dynamics robots, and it'll run until its lithium-ion cells are about to give out.
And then explode.
If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me.
I thought the guy in the picture was, like, fluting for a second, but that's not what he's doing. I was like, how British is that? They're playing a flute while they are on a hunt.
There was a massive amount of backlash against this. The traditionalists, not fans of the idea of hunting robots. I think the lawmakers actually said, is like, wow, I was not expecting to get that response, but we need robots.
I don't know. I think hunting a Terminator could be a lot of fun and also lethal.
You would have to be very careful to, program the robot to get tired. Otherwise, the dogs are just going to collapse.
Yeah, there's actually a pretty funny quote here. It says, "It's not crazy. It's insulting and contemptuous of what hunting represents. Soon they will offer us to have sex with robots."
Yeah, that's a guy who doesn't watch the Level 1
news. I hate to tell
news.
this guy. That's already here. It's already here.
Welcome to the darkest timeline, sir.
Yeah.
No, the darkest timeline is when you have sex with the hunting robot.
Oh.
And our final story is a fantastic one. Now, we talked about the GPT-3, which Microsoft has, gained the rights to. And they're sort of parceling out access to it as they see fit. And I think that one of the major reasons they're doing that is because they knew that something like this eventually was going to happen.
A GPT-3 bot posted comments on Reddit for a week, and no one noticed. The username /u/the gentle meter, I guess.
That sounds right.
Was posting on /r/askreddit. And so, yeah, I don't know. Some of the posts were disturbing. Some of them were fine.
Not really. I mean, the one about, like, anti-suicide, the robot posted how its parents got it through thoughts of suicide.
Yeah.
It didn't seem terrible, but it is so weird.
Yeah.
That this robot is just
able to do that.
Just engaging with people on very, very heavy topics. Apparently he posted something like 2 posts per minute.
I don't know that Reddit was really the benchmark, though, because most of the people that post on Reddit are incoherent anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cesspool.
It's like, oh, they didn't notice. It's like, we didn't notice this building burned down in downtown Detroit. It's like, well, I mean,
it really is like, people trying to move the attention onto themselves or make puns. That's the 2 things you get on Reddit. I mean, I'm there for the cat pictures. Let's be honest. It's a wealth of those.
All right, what do we got for Friday?
Friday will be whatever's left. What haven't we done
There's
yet?
a lot of nonsense.
Security, nonsense, and 2 design stories. Krista, did you know about the design stories?
Ooh, no.
Give us, Krista, if you could, a robot posting on Reddit goodbye.
Updo me, please. Goodbye.
Thanks for the gold, stranger.
Oh,
You missed that one. It was easy.
it was easy. I was trying to think of other Reddit-isms. Hello, chat. Today is finally Friday. It is the 16th of November, and we're doing security, design, and nonsense. 3 sections on Friday.
It's not the 16th of November.
Is it? Oh, it's October.
Krista, you would know if it was the 16th of November because if you looked out the window, everything would be on fire.
Wow. I mean, California's already there, so. I wish it was. Well, I don't know. I don't want to wish my life away, but like, I want things to be better.
You gotta live in the moment, Krista.
Listen, if you need something to take your mind off of the existential dread of just getting out of bed in the morning, there's Linode. There's any number of projects you can work on Linode. You can get free credits on Linode. Set up your next project. There's a really great tutorial section where you can do literally anything. You can set up your own Nextcloud instance, Plex media server. They're working on getting Plex Pass credits, but that's a whole other thing. Even the $5 instance will work really well. You can get some free credits. Use the link below. It's a lot of fun. Thank you, Linode, for sponsoring this episode of the news. And SSL with your Amazon AWS compatible object instance storage. with your vanity SSL certificate. They can do that now. That was a thing we did a video on a while back, and you couldn't do custom SSL. You got their SSL certificate, but now you can do a custom SSL certificate. It works. It's great. It's awesome. Woo!
Google is working on some new security features. They're trying to kill that whole "we spy on everything," idea that people have about them. They're not going to stop spying, but they are going to give you just a tiny smidge more ability to do things without the spying, maybe.
Google accounts get security boost with critical new alert system. So the headline's talking about if you're in a Google app, like say YouTube, and somebody's breaking into your email, you'll get a security alert in YouTube saying, hey, somebody might be trying to break into your email. And people should take that more seriously than they do other messaging mechanisms because, one, they say it's impossible to spoof, and two, because it's a pop-up from within the application, not like an email or something like that, which people may not trust as much. You also get some options to say, hey, let's use the smart speaker in guest mode, and that's like incognito for your smart speaker.
I've been getting spam in my Google Slides, which I've never used.
Huh. I don't know.
People share slides with me, and they're obviously spam with phishing links in them.
That's weird.
Yeah.
You clicked on all those links, right?
Oh, yeah. Got to find out what they are, right?
Not only did I click on them, I gave them my level 1 password and my bank password and my email password and my social security number.
Look, it said free nudes. What am I going to do? In France, they have some weird laws. And this one goes back to 2006, which shows you how paranoid the government is of free information. I don't think they've ever enforced these. I have to think, don't you think, that there was some mitigating factor here?
Yeah.
They wanted these guys for some reason, had nothing on them, and they were like, oh, we'll get you for this.
5 bar and cafe owners arrested in France for running no-log Wi-Fi networks. So at least some of the arrested people are quoted as saying, do what now? We have to do what? That seems ridiculous. So they didn't, according to this, they didn't know. They had no idea that you're not allowed to run an open Wi-Fi hotspot that doesn't keep any logs, which is a little disturbing. Like something like that, I mean, yeah, we spy on everything, but something like that here in America would raise a lot of red flags, but for mostly the wrong reasons, not the reasons you're imagining. But I still don't think that would fly here.
Doesn't even have to be a public business. Even if you're just at your house and you got no password on your router, you can run afoul of this thing. If you're not keeping logs.
$375,000 fine up to.
It's
Wow.
it's
That
steep.
seems like a lot.
They're all out on bail,
Or euro, I'm sorry.
but
Euro fine.
it is a criminal offense, which is crazy.
They're not criminals. Information wants to be free and whatnot.
And the government doesn't want it to be. We talked about zero logon a couple of weeks ago, and I think we had an update last week. It's out there, and the idea was like, well, okay, if you didn't patch, you're screwed. Well, looks like some people didn't patch.
Microsoft says that Iranian hackers are exploiting the zero login vulnerability. Don't know why there's more article.
Well, you got to put this picture of the flag there. That's important. State sponsored. It does seem like a really easy one to use. I mean, if I were a state sponsored hacker, I would try it. Why not? Sometimes, I would say one of the most common failures in the business world is the spreadsheet. A lot of people mess up the spreadsheet.
A lot of people don't understand how spreadsheets are supposed to work and draw things in them.
We actually did a story about spreadsheets a while back, and some people posted, and they were like, if you understood how a spreadsheet worked and you weren't stupid, you would understand that like X, Y, and Z. No, it's not me, morons. It's the people we're supporting. They don't understand them. That's why you have the problems with the date formatting.
Remember those projects that we would get where they would have like a web page and they're like, make the web page like this? And the web page was supposed to contain a table of information.
They colored the cells.
And the spreadsheet was
spaced them.
like, yeah, and it was just like, it's 3 times more work to convert this into a CSV now. Why did you do this?
Paint would have been a better option for what you did here. So yeah, people don't really understand how to use Excel or any kind of spreadsheet or anything like that. And sometimes when they don't, it's extra tragic.
The BBC News reports that the test error, quote unquote, should never have happened. So the BBC was keeping track of people who were infected with a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet, not a database. And apparently also using the 2003 version of Excel because it only supported like 16,000 rows and they ran out of columns. And so they just didn't know what to do, so they just stopped.
The 2003 version?
Yeah.
They called up the headquarters and they were like, we're going to need people to stop getting sick. We're out of rows.
I mean, that's sort of dysfunctional. That's a really insane level of dysfunctional.
So what happened as a result of this is the whole, what do you call it when you track the...
Contact tracing.
Contact tracing did not happen for everybody who was in the overflow.
What was the fix? They made another spreadsheet.
-2.
Yeah. Final, extra final, for real final, 2.
This one, this is a link to the PDF. I meant to go back and try to find an article about this, but the link to the PDF tells you what you need to know. It has to do with smart remotes. You see, they have these remote controls now that you can talk to, which means that there's a microphone, which is always on. Guess what researchers were able to make it do?
Where's the remote? Turning remotes into listening devices. So I read most of the PDF, which is quite long. It took me more than an hour to get through.
Why would you bother?
It was kind of interesting.
It's like the whole, like, why was there more paragraphs under this title?
The microcontroller in the remote can be flashed with like infrared signals, and it is trivial. Like you can be outside of somebody's house with an infrared lamp and just flash like through their living room window and reprogram it, and they'd never know. And then it puts it in some kind of a mode, and then you hit it with Bluetooth or something, and then you can reprogram the firmware. But like you can literally live inside that microcontroller in the remote, and no one would ever know.
Everybody's thinking about, it's like, what's the last really bad thing I said around my remote?
No, I'm sitting here thinking, like, I have to write pretty long documents for clients sometimes, and I always think no one's ever going to read this. But in this case, someone spent a lot of time on this PDF, and Wendell did actually read all of it.
I'm sure a lot of people read it. People who are interested in spying on you.
Yeah,
your remote.
I'm going to go right to eBay and buy one of these just to fart around with it.
And now, Krista, we come to the design section, which you've already downplayed.
Yeah, these are kind of lateral moves. We've got 2, but both of them are not particularly that interesting, I guess.
The first is Gmail. I think it's a lot different.
Kind of. I guess, yeah, a little bit. Gmail has a new logo that's a lot more Google. Farewell envelope. They've kept the same shape from the envelope, but they've removed the holding shape and just did the M for mail.
Yeah, but look at the color they threw in.
Because no one knows what an envelope is anymore.
I wonder if that is like a use case they were running into with the younger generation. They're like, people don't know what this is.
I'm not going to notice. I don't care.
It's fine. It's certainly simpler, so it'll match up with the other icons in the Google suite. So, I mean,
here's a question for you, Krista, and I guess this is because okay, I understand. It's the overlap, like because blue and red make whatever that darker red is, and red and green make yellow.
It's supposed to be.
But I don't like the red bordering the red.
Yeah, certainly if someone was colorblind, they probably wouldn't notice that distinction very well. It's not. I mean, it's not something you need to really read, though. It's just an icon. Like you could convert that to black and white, and it would be fine.
We don't need that kind of thing in 2020. We've moved beyond that. And next up is another rebrand from Google's big competitor, I say with a chuckle.
Bing is now Microsoft Bing as the search engine gets a rebrand. The shape is pretty much the same. It's less jagged than what it was previously. But they have done some styling, I think, to bring it more in line with the Edge logo.
I wonder how many events Microsoft has had where they talk about Bing or the technologies that are in it, and they have Bing cherries. It's like, these are the Microsoft Bing cherries. It's like, it's an hors d'oeuvre. It's a joke.
The one thing that bothers me about this icon is the angles don't match up, like between the top of the B and the curve inward. They're like slightly off of each other.
It's Escher-esque.
It does bend both ways. Like it bends. It maintains the same facing, but you would expect it to rotate the other way. At least I would. for this section.
Broken Krista.
I think we're talking about different things, but usually, like, when you're doing a logo, it's really nice if you can get all the angles to line up nicely. And
Yeah,
they've
I
done it
understand what
along
you're
with
talking
one
about.
edge, but like they have the other edge where it's not lined up.
Yeah, like you're talking about, like
I guess
the
it lines
top.
up on this side, yeah.
If you rotated it and turned it around, it might.
It's exactly fine. Like, I don't think it's gonna change their position in the world of search engines.
People are going to continue to not use Bing.
Yeah,
That's exactly.
I mean, I
what's
use
gonna
DuckDuckGo, and it has a terrible logo. But
Every now and then I accidentally use Bing, and it only reinforces my behavior to never, ever use that search engine again. I have wasted the time. Why did I do that?
Yeah, I hate it. Moving on to nonsense. We spend a lot, well, not we personally, but humanity in general spends a lot of time thinking about where we came from and ultimately where we'll go. Not as individuals again. We know where we're going. It's into the dirt or a fire. But
Good luck in November.
it's a different kind of fire. As an entire species, as a planet, where do we come from? Where will we go? There's a new answer, and it's kind of crazy.
An earlier universe existed before the Big Bang and can still be observed today, says Nobel Prize winner. He's talking about Hawking points. I guess those are points where there's a black hole that has decayed, but in order for the black hole to have decayed, it had to have existed before the Big Bang, as we understand the Big Bang and the origin of the universe and the age of the universe. And the age of the universe has been confirmed in a whole bunch of there's a lot of corroborating evidence, I should say, for the age of the universe.
So this speaks to a constant cycle of Big Bangs. Expansion, contraction, and bang.
Well,
like an engine.
We're missing the contraction step because all of the math and everything that we have right now suggests an ever-expanding universe, which doesn't make sense unless the matter decays into something else that then bangs. But in terms of like the matter crunching back together, we don't have any evidence of that.
So, this whole idea that it all ends with some sort of, magic fantasy stuff, maybe not. Maybe just keep cycling. Maybe, a billion years from now, there'll be another Trump election cycle.
no, it's Kanye. It's easy. He's on our ballots here in Kentucky.
Really?
In one of the infinite universe. Yeah. He's I got that's absolutely valid.
Yeah.
Kanye's on there.
That's amazing.
What would you pay for the bones of a dinosaur? I've never thought about it. If I was forced to think about it, I think my number, if let's say I had, money to burn, I don't think I'd spend more than $1 million.
There's actually a lot of really amazing fossils around here, not dinosaurs, but
not complete.
Yeah.
And that is the thing about Stan. He is nearly complete.
Someone bought a T-Rex skeleton for a record-breaking $31.8 million. And this article goes on to talk about how the Field Museum, the Smithsonian, I guess, Field Museum, they paid like $6 or $8 million in 1997, and everybody thought that was controversially high. But yeah, $31.8 million. Christie's handled this auction, and they were like, I'll probably go for $8 to $10 million. 31.8. They had no idea.
That is the record, the most expensive dinosaur ever sold.
Is that like a Skyrim NPC buying dragon bones? Like, they always pay so much for it.
I feel almost certain this is Jeff Bezos.
Do you think there will be any magic in grinding up his bones and creating magical items with them?
Okay, so Ray Kurzweil maybe?
Now, they point out he is 40 feet long and 14 feet tall. Was Jurassic Park lying to us about the height of T-Rexes?
This one was 20 and had a lot of injuries, so I'm telling. There were definitely large T-Rexes.
Yeah, but the one in Jurassic Park picked up the Jeep. And that was really big.
Well,
Paleontologist.
he was genetically modified. He wasn't all dinosaur.
He was eating all that GMO food.
No, he was part frog DNA.
On hormones.
Nature
Oh,
found
the
the
Jurassic
way.
Park one. Oh, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. So maybe they were extra big. Okay. Is that canon? I think I've read that.
That is
book.
canon. That's actually how they reproduce. That's like a major plot point. Come on.
Well, no, I know about the frog thing, but did that make them big? Is what I'm saying. Is that a canon thing?
It's funny because when the paleontologists arrive in the park in the book, they're kind of like, are these real dinosaurs? And they're like, yeah, they're real. And they're like, but you've entered so much other DNA to splice it together. And they're like, well, there's some things that we've had to change, but it's mostly the same. And so the paleontologists are kind of snooty about it, and they're like, they're not real dinosaurs. So.
Now, Krista, in a recent episode of the news, I noticed one commenter said that you had like a beautiful glow about you, and they wondered if perhaps you had an announcement to make.
No announcements. No announcements.
Well, pretty soon, next year or the year after, we plan to send some lovely ladies to the moon, and perhaps they will have a different kind of glow.
Straight to the moon, Alice. Not that at all. Radiation levels on the moon more than double those on the space station. I don't think Alice would have liked that.
I'm bleeding from the eyes, Norton.
There's going to be 4 people in our audience who get that. They're really going to enjoy it.
So yeah, we've never been able to measure the radiation on the moon because I guess the original moon landing, they didn't take that kind of gear. But the Chang'e is up there, the Chinese satellite, and it was able to get some measurements. Turns out it's a lot.
Underground lava tubes on the moon. That's our only option. We got to drill a hole in the top of the lava tube that's near the surface and just turn that into it. Some of those are miles big. That'll be great. New Tycho City. It's going to be underground. It's going to be great.
They point out
put a shower on your spaceship and just rinse the radiation away.
That's exactly how it works. All that extra water you have on a moon mission. They point out that piling up the lunar soil will be your best bet, they think.
Lava tubes.
You build a structure, you cover it in dirt.
Lava tubes.
Krista, you're into that. What do you call those things?
Earth ships?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it can't be an Earth ship.
It's a moon ship. But Earth ships require water, like rainwater, so I don't know how that would work. But I guess you just bring your own and then dump it in there.
One of the problems with moon dust is that it's so abrasive because it's so pointy. It just digs into everything and scratches everything.
Yeah, it's so abrasive. It's constantly making racist Twitter posts. This is a story I was talking about in the last episode, and this is just mind-blowing because they talk about the odds of it all. And when you break it down, if you believe... Now, here's the linchpin. Let's take a poll. Do you believe that there could easily exist, or let's say, does there exist, an alien civilization so much more advanced than us that they could run our existence as a simulation? I'm going to say yes.
It seems likely on something with a 15 billion year time scale. Or more, now that we know that, there were things that existed before then.
Krista?
I don't think so.
All right, well, you lose. It's 2-1. And so if that is true, then the odds are staggering that we're probably a simulation.
Could our entire reality be part of a simulation created by some other beings? Well, Gizmodo has got a fairly long article that will walk you through the reasoning there. I'm not sure that this isn't like one of those novelty math proofs they teach you in college where you can prove that 2 is equal to 1 and you got to really take it apart to see that you're dividing by 0 or something to get that result, but...
No, I totally believe it, and I say that morality and, just any kind of feelings you have towards your fellow man, that's out the window. Good luck in November.
I wish you good fortune in the wars to come.
And speaking of morality and horrible, horrible human beings, this story was I wish there were more details. I want to know what they did and what brought this about. I really need to know more about this.
Probably going to be on Netflix. OKC jailers face cruelty charge for playing Baby Shark on loop. It's inhuman, according to the prosecutor. So they were only charged with misdemeanors, but they were doing some really seriously inhuman things, far beyond that, in my opinion, to people in jail.
And you were shackled. You had to stand, so there's no sleeping through the Baby Shark. And you got hours and hours of high-volume Baby Shark on a loop.
That is pretty brutal.
Unpleasant. You think you get like a PTSD from that, and then every time you hear it...
Yeah. Yeah, it's part of the whole MO of the whole prison system in America is dehumanizing the people.
Yeah, unfortunate.
That really ruins Shark Week. For all time.
You think they play Baby Shark during Shark Week?
No, they just hear the word and you're just immediately like taken back.
Well, there's a great joke, and it is sad, but it is a reality that certain forms of printer ink, and maybe toner, I don't know about toner, are literally more valuable than their weight in liquid gold. And we pay for it. It's not that way because it's actually worth that amount. It's because of the crazy cabal of printers and the printer companies. So when you are part of a public entity that gets that for free, maybe you do a little enterprising on the side.
Former Texas Public Library employee charged with theft of $1.3 million in printer toner. The accused, Randall Whitted, I don't know how you say his name.
Widens?
He worked for the library as its purchasing agent. $1.3 million of toner cartridges.
That's like,
So,
what,
like-
6 cartridges?
Yeah.
It's still like a lot. That is a shocking. And like what your eBay account and stuff like that. It's like, how are you coming across all this toner?
Yeah, he didn't think it through. He didn't try to hide it at all. Didn't try to launder the money. Got a little greedy. What do you think he would have gotten away with? What's the tipping point where it's like, okay, you went too far?
I would have thought it was a much smaller number.
I'd say 100K, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah, like
I'm counting myself lucky.
like maybe the odd toner cartridge missing like once or twice a year. Well, that's probably $100,000 of toner.
And I'm going to rotate it through different kinds of accounts. And, maybe I'll sell it on the dark web.
The
Get
dark
mon-
web for printer cartridges.
Get Monero for it.
Do people even print anything anymore?
I've had some
Not since
things
the pandemic.
where people be like, hey, print this order form and send it in with your item or your payment. And I was like, what?
The toner cartridges in our printers last for 15,000 pages, and I think we're down to about 1 cartridge a year at this point.
Yeah, there's no reason to print things anymore. Do you guys have phones? Here's a story that I feel like any commentary I have about it is just going to, cause those people to comment, and I don't want to hear from them. So let's just...
Transgender man sues Amazon for pregnancy and gender identity discrimination. So there's a lot of disturbing stuff here, but this person said that they were pregnant and Amazon wouldn't reassign them. And so it's in a lawsuit. We're going to cover the lawsuit when the lawsuit concludes, but either the person who wrote this article was not good with pronouns, or I don't understand how the pregnancy is a thing.
No, this is... Okay,
I
go
think
ahead.
this was a woman, and they transitioned so they present as a man.
Oh my God, Chris, you're going to get us killed. Yeah. So, obviously,
Well, if that's true, then Amazon is a huge pile of trouble.
trigger alert, a man cannot get pregnant. So this is a woman who transitioned into a man, but didn't actually go through with any sort of surgical.
Oh, yeah, then Amazon's in trouble.
So, but apparently it was pretty convincing. Probably some hormone treatment or something going on there. So a man was showing up to work saying, I'm a man, and no one knew any better. And then the man said, I'm pregnant. So some people were like, wait, what? Prove it. Because they thought they were just trying to get out of work. Now, something I learned, as part of becoming a man, if you're a real man, you just, you deal with your pregnancies. You grow some balls. You deal with your pregnancies. That's part of it.
It seems like there were several steps before someone finally was like, you need a verification from your doctor. But I feel like that would have been the first step when someone was like, I don't believe you. Like, why would you not just bring a doctor's note, like with an ultrasound or something?
Yeah, well, maybe because you were trying to stir up trouble.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, this was probably not handled well by Amazon.
Maybe there's like a mental disability going on there. I read this.
We got people submitted this story to the point that I just didn't even care.
The thing about this story is when you read it, it kind of describes how that ring performs this task. This is for a male. I can't figure it out. Do you understand?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Security flaw left smart chastity sex toy users at risk of permanent lock-in. So, see the bar? The bar, like, you would not be able to remove the bar without a lot of discomfort.
It's like a seatbelt on a carnival ride.
Yes.
But how does that stop me? Where do I insert myself into this device?
It's like a wrist. So, like, you know how handcuffs work on a wrist kind of a thing? It's like that. But it's not just the thing, it's also the other dangly things that are because that is smaller potentially than, and so you're not going to be able to move the thing off without severe discomfort because something would have to compress.
Oh, so that part
Yes.
is sticking forward, which would prevent you
Yep.
from inserting.
Yep.
Okay, I got you.
It turns out these are just buggy AF and they're made by two people. So even without the security risk, there were people that were like, hey, this doesn't work. I can't get it off. You have to use an angle grinder to get it off, which has a risk of injury.
Yeah, I imagine that metal would conduct a little heat.
Yeah. Turns out. So
It's a Chinese company, and they contacted them. They're like, hey, you got to fix this. And they're like, okay, we think we can fix this by August. And then by August, they had not done anything. So they called them back up. And they're like, listen, we can't figure it out. Every time we try to add a password, it just breaks everything. So I don't know.
people are going to be hurt by, like, be sure that it's not in use when you do the firmware upgrade. I mean, just, this is like, okay, we include this because it's funny. But in the not too distant future, we are going to have the cyberpunk future. You're going to have, like, you know, the Honeywell brand, you know, arm augment, and it's going to be this buggy. As buggy and terrible as this thing is, and this thing messing up your junk, that Honeywell implant in your arm is going to be exactly as buggy and terrible. So it's like, oh, I got the strength implant. And it's like, what's wrong with your fist? It's clenched. And it's like, yeah, it's breaking my knuckles right now. There's not really much I can do to stop it. That's how it's going to be.
Now, some other questions I had about this. Is this waterproof, you think?
No.
So how... You have to bathe.
Yeah, there were a lot of people complaining about a lot of problems with those.
Also,
It's like the ankle monitor. You know,
It's just a bad idea.
you got to put a Ziploc bag over your ankle monitor to take a shower.
That's going to be an interesting piece of logistics. What if you're in a car accident? You know, like sometimes they have to cut your clothes off.
Yeah,
because you like have. What if you have shrapnel under this thing?
Yeah, that's there's some funny stories about that online with some other things.
Why would anybody do that? Starting the animal block, and I want to go ahead and get the darkest story out of the way. And this is another story that doesn't give me enough information. Why? Why would you? Not only why would you do this, but like, was there some situation where they felt like they needed to? It seems like it was just for fun. Is that what you?
Yeah, because they were sharing videos of it, which is why we included it in the technology nonsense.
That's just.
Yeah. Police accused of beating porcupines to death with batons, which makes no sense, but they're all getting a good laugh out of it, apparently, and sharing videos of it on Instagram, so probably contributing to somebody's PTSD inside Facebook.
They are facing animal cruelty charges and have been fired. Reminder that of all the murders that have happened this year, very few of them have been fired. It turns out people are more upset about porcupines than human life.
Yeah, well, at least a human is a threat. Porcupines didn't do anything.
Are they considered a varmint now?
They got
I don't think
they
so.
got those spines, man.
Yeah, but that's a defensive tactic.
No, they need to be shot on sight.
This is a very large data point on the whole, like, mental well-being of those maybe should not be in the public trust position.
Oh, yeah, like, you know, we need to screen heavily for people who are doing this kind of thing. Yeah, that's crazy.
I can't wait for more VR, because maybe we can do a VR screening, and it's like, oh, this is a law enforcement person in training. All right, let's send them through the porcupine scenario. Like, nope, ejected.
Well, you think about you're a porcupine. You start your day, and you're thinking about, what are the things that could happen to me today that I need to watch out for?
It's poor porcupine.
You never see the baton coming.
No.
This story, however, is very heartwarming, and it makes me think back to Romeo, who had such a happy ending. And this one is it was Pumpkin, and what was the boy's name?
Oh, I don't remember.
Harris?
A lonely otter at a sanctuary finds love online through a dating site built just for him. So
His name was Harris.
there was one nature preserve, and there was a pair of otters, and they're elderly otters, and one of the elderly otters passed away. So they created a dating profile, so Harris 10. And there was another nature preserve that had the opposite problem. One of their otters passed away, and so they relocated the otter from one place to another so that the otters wouldn't be lonely. But they weren't sure that the otters would accept one another, but because they were both lonely, they've taken to each other.
They pointed out that it was actually a kind of a May-December thing going on there because Harris is 10, his lover was 16.
Yeah.
And I think the new one is also kind of an older gal.
Yeah.
But they pointed out that Harris was just like, he catered to her every whim. He would massage her. He would bring her food. His whole world was giving her whatever she wanted. And after her death, he was quite forlorn.
Well, we need this level of heartwarming after the previous story.
Yeah. Let's hope that the cops don't get called to this next preserve. Jesus, that would be the darkest timeline. And often we use animals. Last week we talked about those poor rats who had to sniff out landmines.
Yeah.
We use dogs for that. I think that dogs, though, aren't expected to like trigger them. They just sniff them because they can smell them. But because of the way, dog training works, you have to be nearby to give them instructions. And the Army is trying to work on a way to not have to do that.
The U.S. Army is putting AR goggles on military dogs to better guide them.
Look at this dog. Look how happy he is.
So the AR goggles give the operator, the vantage point of the dog, one, but they'll also display on the screen cues to the dog, like go forward, left, right, whatever.
I imagine there's probably some sort of auditory addition to it as well. Now you might be thinking, how are you going to get a dog to wear AR goggles? It turns out these dogs already wear protective gear for their eyes. So they're already trained to deal with this kind of thing.
Nice.
Kristen, would you get Rue AR goggles?
No, I'm pretty sure Rue would throw those off and chew on them. She doesn't like to wear anything on her head.
We need to get Rue the dog helmet from Rick and Morty. Just dial her intelligence up a little bit. That would be amazing.
She's so smart. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, right. Yeah. You'd turn it up to 11, and she would just be like a basic dog at that point.
Oh, she's so good.
Is
She
she?
hasn't come up here.
She's not with us today.
No, she's downstairs.
People do love to see her. You should make it a point to bring her.
To bring her up, yeah.
Technology often turns against the poor little animals, as we've seen, but sometimes it can help us save them from evil poachers.
Fake eggs fitted with GPS track sea turtle traffickers in Central America. This is amazing. They 3D printed fake turtle eggs with battery-operated GPS trackers and buried them with real sea turtle eggs. And sure enough, the poachers dug up the fake eggs along with the real ones, and that was enough for authorities to track them.
Did you have any idea that sea turtle eggs were a delicacy in some
No.
parts of the world?
I had never heard that.
Yeah. But apparently, and I assume that the exchange rate is pretty extreme in these parts of the world because they talk about how you can make a living just stealing sea turtle eggs, which is illegal, but they're just $1 US per egg.
Yeah.
Although there's like 200 in every clutch.
Hmm.
So I guess it's, worth your time.
Yeah, if you just had one clutch a day, that's not a terribly unreasonable living.
Now, you're not allowed to sell these eggs. As we said, it's protected species. So generally, they discovered that most people were probably doing it door to door. So you go and you get some eggs, and then you go to people's back doors, and they were literally able to prove that based on the GPS movement.
Scary.
That's I'm just imagining that like in my own neighborhood. We're in a landlocked state, thousands of miles from the coast, and some guy just comes to the back door and he's like, "Would you like to buy some sea turtle eggs?"
I have a feeling that, like, if we are in a simulation, like we talked about in the earlier story, and it's like, the Q continuum or something, or the ones running that simulation, all of these stories are just going to be like exhibits A through F for why we should just not, the human race should not be allowed to continue on. This is just terrible.
Well, I mean, a lot of animals steal eggs.
For every happy otter reunion story, we have, you had to do what now? You had to put a piece of your technology inside an egg in order to make human beings not be awful?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about, humanity. But it's also the thing, that always blows my mind is that we have people for example, the Supreme Court. And they live.
It's like cracking a safe. No,
They live alongside guys who are working in the fabrication plants in Taiwan, and we're the same species, and yet, yeah. So, I guess that's what makes it exciting, right? To be a human. But what would maybe make it exciting to be a bear would to be a year in Alaska where not a lot of humans have become calling because, the crazy 2020 that we're having. It turns out that the rivers and the salmon that swim in them have mostly been untouched this year and left just to the bears, which leads to this kind of thing.
Reuters has this amazing article about the headline is wide-bodied 747 crowned Alaska's fattest bear. This bear's name is aptly 747. His belly is dragging the snow. What kind of footprint does that create in the snow?
He's hungry.
What a chonker.
For humans, Fat Bear Week is a way to learn from a distance about nature and Alaska. They made a holiday for this little guy.
So you actually get to vote online.
Yeah, everybody uploads their bear photos, and it's like, oh, that's 747.
They tell you not to run away from a bear, but I think you could probably outrun him.
Oh, no. I bet once that momentum gets started, you're dead.
Again,
he just turns into a ball. He rolls down the hill after you.
I have the mental picture in my head of what the footprints in the snow look like, where it's like paw prints with like this bowl-shaped
The
groove
trench.
in the snow. Yeah. It's just endlessly amusing.
Was he dragging a sled?
Oh, Lord.
The thing that kills me here, though, Reuters, come on, one picture?
Yeah.
There should be a huge gallery of 747. But I think you can go to the site where they voted and probably see video of
Fat Bear
it there.
Week.
So,
It's
I guess
on
something else.
explore.org/Fat Bear Week.
Oh, 747.
All right, well, that's it.
Sounds good.
So
We'll see you next week.
Krista, you know
Hopefully.
what this is going to be. It's going to be the fattest bear goodbye.
Goodbye.